Welcome to the vlog. I'm the Kumo Sensei, and today we're gonna talk about something that I am very familiar with, and that is dancing. And for those who don't know, I have been a dancer for over 10 years now. Yes, over a decade. I started off as a street dancer, then became a street performer, then became a competitive dancer, and now I am a dance instructor. So there is a lot of lore to talk about here, but I'm not going to cover it all on this video because that's just too much history. So I am going to talk about a fraction of my dancing history, and that is going to be focusing on the competitive side of dancing. And oh boy, there is a lot to cover here, so let's talk about this. So I really just goof off now, and to be honest, I'm pretty much in a slight retirement, so I'm not as competitive or as tough as I once was. But I'll tell you this, during my competitive years, it was some of the most roughest and most difficult times of my dancing career. So I find it kind of funny because a lot of people watch my dancing videos and they're like, yo, this is nothing, I can do better. I'll tell you this, man, you're either capping or you just never seen what dancing is. When people think of dancing, they don't recognize how big the dancing bubble is. There's choreographers, there's street dancers, there's freestyle dancers. The world of dancing is so huge. If you're categorizing dancing to your standards, you're only focusing too much on a niche of dancing. But dancing in general is so big. And once you come into the world of dancing, you would recognize just how big it really is. But let's talk about competitive dancing. So the reason why I did competitive dancing was just to prove myself. Because at the time, before I started competitive dancing, although I was a pretty good dancer, I didn't feel like a real dancer, and I really wanted to prove myself that I was a good dancer. And this is something that everybody will go through as a dancer, and in my experience there were only two ways at the time to prove to yourself that you was a good dancer. One was to be acknowledged by a bigger dancer that was more well known than you, and two was to either compete and to prove yourself. So honestly, I just hopped into competitive dancing because that was pretty much the only way to prove myself at that time. Now you have social media and whatnot, which is crazy. And although social media did exist during the time I was competitive dancing, it wasn't as big because it was more niche at the time. Because during that time, you really only had, your famous group choreographers such as Ken Jazz, Jabberwockies, and those type of, dancers. And although there was freestyle competitive dancers that were on the scene at the time, such as, Firelock, Sala, Paradox, and whatnot, they weren't as known or as big as they are now. And if you don't know who they are, you're not a competitive dancer, nor are you a dancer at all. But anyhow though, when I entered into competitive dancing, I had no idea what to expect. And I'm going to say this right now for those who had never competed before. You are absolutely going to lose, without a doubt. So if you've seen in TV shows, or in anime, or in any tournament bracket, there's a top 12, top 24, etc. However, what they don't tell you is that there is 100 or so participants, and there's only 24 to 12 spots. So what they do is they pretty much do a pre-selection. So pre-selection was essentially a way to actually water down the numbers, just so you have your 12 or your 24 that will be entered into your brackets, into your dance competition. And this is where the hard part happens, because if there's 50 to 100 competitors, sometimes even more, you will have to battle maybe 2 to 3 people, and you only get one round, 30 seconds, and you do not get to pick your music. That is pure facts. You almost never get to pick your songs. So you have to adapt extremely quickly. If you do not adapt, you are going to lose. And here's a heads up. So how do you know if you're good or bad at competitive dancing? And there's really two things I've learned in my experience through competitive dancing. And that is, one is how fast you adapt to other types of music and genres. And two, if you stand still or not. Do not stand still. If you stand still, you are asking to get absolutely dominated. And this is something that really frustrates me about dancers nowadays that are starting out. They're focusing too much on their upper body and not on their leg movements. And I'm speaking from experience here, so I'm telling you how it is, and this is facts and reality. You will get humiliated in front of everyone. So if you're the type of person that's kind of shy or kind of afraid to lose or get humiliated, then I'm afraid that competitive dancing is not for you, and you probably shouldn't do competitive dancing, because when you get mocked, you will get mocked. I am not even kidding. And people will laugh in front of you if you get humiliated or mocked. So if you can't take it in, then it isn't for you. But at the end of the day, all of these dancers are just as passionate as you are, and pretty much whether you win or lose, your competitor will always hug you, give you a handshake, and we always laugh together. Yeah, we're only competitive when we're dancing, but outside of that, we're just as friendly as everybody else. And I'll tell you, I lost so many times in the beginning. But I will say this though, for every single time I lost, I've gained so much experience. And honestly, I think competitive dancing is the fastest way to grow at dancing. I will actually talk more about competitive dancing through my vlogs as I do more dancing vlogs and whatnot, but I can't really go into depth about it because there is so much to talk about here. I know way more than I'm letting on, but that's just because we have a decade here to discuss. But let us not talk about too much of it, right? Let's talk about myself. So when I lost, it was pretty humiliating, but I kind of knew coming in that I'm going to lose because I just started out. When you enter into a dance competition, they do not care about how long you've been dancing or who you're dancing against. They just put you up with somebody, and your job is to pretty much prove to yourself that you're the better overall dancer. So every single time that I lost, I actually practiced different types of music and genres because you kinda have to adapt, and this is what I'm saying when it comes to competitive dancing. Adaptability is such a huge advantage. If you can adapt to other types of music, then you're in luck because it should become easier for you over time. So by this point in time, when I'm competitive dancing, I've already practiced other styles of dancing. It's really just the other genres of music and dancing that I haven't really dived into. So during this time, I was pretty much trying to adapt by incorporating other dance styles into my freestyle. I'm a freestyle hip-hop dancer, meaning that I pretty much just do freeform and whatnot. I don't really have specific move sets. And also during this time, I'm pretty much developing my own style as a freestyle hip-hop dancer, which is why when you see my dance style, you may be asking yourself like, what move is that? And it's really just my own moveset, because that's how you should be freestyling. Do not steal anyone else's moveset though, because that is not a good thing, and pretty much other dancers will hate you for that. So please develop your own style if you can, and please learn to freestyle. Whether it's freestyle crumping, freestyle breakdancing, and whatnot. Please don't steal anyone else's routine or moveset. And eventually through practice and through hard work, after about a year and a half of losing in competitive dancing, I finally won a small competition. It was a very small one, but I only battled about maybe 5-6 of those people because there was a pre-selection. And then, you know, other people got knocked out of the bracket as they battled against other dancers. But the moment I won, I cried. Now, I would be lying if I said I won a bunch of more dance competitions, but in reality, that's not the case. I won some, I lost some, but I lost more than I won, if I'm being completely honest here. Because there was just a lot of amazing dancers out there, and some of them will eventually be my co-workers, quote unquote, in dance instructing, which is kind of funny if I think about it. We still do have a bit of friendly competition once in a while for the students, which is kind of funny, but most of the case though, we just do showcases and whatnot for our introduction. And I've stated this before, and I'll state this again. When I'm practicing dancing, I do not go all out. All I really do is pretty much your basic warm-ups, you know, your rhythm and beats, your basic routines. But I do not go all out during dance practice because no one does. That's kind of strange. Imagine going to the gym and for your warm-up, you're trying to do a new PB by maxing out your weights. That is not a productive thing to do. So that's essentially the same thing when it comes to dance practice. All of us dancers, we usually just use dance practice as a way to practice our routines and practice basic body movements and combos and whatnot. And while we do go all out at times during dance practice, we don't necessarily try to do it every single dance practice because then it becomes a bit too tiresome. Don't forget, you have to practice your combos, your routines, just like everyone else. But I apologize, this sounds more like a lecture, but honestly though, I'm just trying to give you a bit of a headspace to think about when I'm talking about myself, because if I'm just talking about dancing, a lot of people are going to get confused. But anyhow though, I guess I'll call this a vlog for today. I would like to talk more about dancing in the future, so if I ever do more dancing vlogs, I will talk more about myself and my history, because after all, we do have 10 plus years to discuss here and not enough time to discuss it all. But maybe someday in the future though, we'll learn more about myself and pretty much everything else revolving around dancing, my transitioning from competitive dancing to dance instructing, etc. And yeah, that's really about it. See ya.